Hello, my beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Welcome to my channel. I have my April book reviews today. I am super excited to share. I have some questions that I honestly want some feedback on, or you can just give me recommendations, particularly based on anything that I share. The whole point, I think, of watching book reviews for me is to be inspired to read, or to maybe find out a book that I either want to read, or maybe when I thought I wanted to read that I go, maybe I won't read that one right away. So since I do have 6 books, I will try to hold them up as I talk about each one. That way you can kind of scroll the bar through on the ones that you are interested in hearing about. So I want to start with my favorite book that I read this month. It's definitely a 5-star, and I read it because Abookolive, a booktube channel, is doing a read along in May. So I highly encourage you to go out, pick up this book. She is hosting it over on Goodreads. I will link the description of the read along in my description box. Just click on the bottom facing arrow and it'll pop up for you. So that book is called The Big Green Tent, and it's Russian literature, and I have never read Russian literature. I even confess that I'm pretty ignorant about Russian history. I can know about USSR and Stalin and KGB and the overall themes, the Cold War between us and those kind of things, but I really wanted to know more about that. And this book is a beautiful, beautiful story. It's kind of my interpretation of the Russian version of Dead Poet Society, because there is it goes through the lives of 3 young men, and it starts out with their teacher that kind of the classroom connects them and gets them thinking in these terms about what's going on in their point of history and in their country and nationalism and all this kind of things. And one is a photographer, one is a poet, and one is a pianist. And so they have these art outlets, if you will, that they use to express themselves and go along. And there's a lot of time shifting because it goes through the different viewpoints, and so you have to go back in the story and pick up this person's and then go forward through it and back and forth. And so once I realized and kind of got on board with that, it is amazing how deeply well written, the depth of the characters. There are countless lovable characters that I just rooted for and just followed along in anticipation of what was coming next. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. I highly recommend it. Go check out the description and see if you would like to read along with several other people and dive in deeper. I know my month of May is much crazier than my month of April, so I cheated and read it in April instead of May, but I plan to skim over it and reread parts of it and really get a lot out of it from other readers. So that is my definite 5-star. After I finished reading that book, it is a beautiful, beautiful story, but kind of heavy, in some of the topics. So I was looking for a lighter read, and I followed it up with The Library Lost and Found. This is the brand new one by Phaedra Patrick. I loved her book, The Curious Charms of Arthur Pepper, last year, and so I really looked forward to this one, and it didn't disappoint. If you like a very lighthearted, very charming characters, I think of her characters, there's a lot of them that are kind of quirky, kind of more along the lines of like Forrest Gump, and they kind of put out those kind of philosophies of life. And I will give you that a lot of it is kind of predictable or kind of goes along very lightheartedly, but I enjoy that, particularly after I've read something that's been very deeply thought-provoking or kind of weighty. These are good feel-good kind of books. And so she has another book that I have not read, so I look forward to reading that one. And I like I like this style and author, so if you're looking for something along those lines, this is a beautiful story about a librarian who finds a mysterious book with a mysterious message, and she goes on a quest to find out about her past and about how this book is tied into the history of her town and to her neighbors, and just goes along that journey. So it's a fun little feel-good read. My classic for the month, I went ahead and read The Last of the Mohicans. This came in my Coffee and a Classic last month, and it's a fairly substantial classic. I read 6 books, but 2 or 3 of the books, they were all 400 to 600 page books. So this one's about 500 pages. And I'm not gonna lie, this is not one of my more favorite classics that I've read. Generally speaking, war and those kind of situations are a more difficult read for me because I just sympathize so much with all the characters. And The Last of the Mohicans, it's talking about the French-Indian wars in the States. So Unka is the last Mohican, and he is on the side of the settlers who are trying to kind of go across the enemy Indian territory, and there's a lot of quotes in here by Shakespeare, and I can really appreciate that there's a lot of Shakespearean influence because this kind of reads like a Shakespearean tragedy, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't give spoilers, or I try very hard not to give spoilers, but if you do have any interest in the French Indian time period or the landscape of America in that time, this was a good read. So after a war kind of heavy topic, I wanted something light. I have only read one other Lilian Jackson Braun mystery. These are all cat related. The detective in the story owns a pair of Siamese cats, Yum Yum and Coco, and they don't talk or do anything real cheesy like that, but they will point out things or rub up against or pull out something that becomes a clue in the mystery of whatever's going on that is trying to be solved. It reads a lot like Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot or Miss Marple kind of lightheartedness, and it's not overly heavy graphic or heady, but when you want a nice little cute light read, and I'm a cat lover, so if you're a cat lover, you kind of like some more mystery, lighthearted style, these are a good one. So every few years, I will probably pick up one of these. I know there are dozens of these books out on the market, so every once in a while, I think I'll continue reading it for that purpose. I like that for that. So speaking of series, I finished the last one in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Stieg Larsson's Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. This is the 3rd and final one that he wrote. Another author, I can't remember his name now. It's another author that picked it up and started the series and wrote it, and I'll probably read some of those, but honestly, the second one kind of answered a lot of the questions that were cliffhangers, and then this one kind of pulled it together and drew a lot of the conclusions, like, okay, now we know why these things are happening, or these people are in the story, or how these people are connected. And it's very action-packed without being overly graphic. It does have a lot of action and violence, but it's not done in a really super grotesque way, which I appreciate. So I give 5 stars to the whole series, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Really clever. A lot of parts of it were suspenseful or not as obvious, and I think it's very well written. So love that. Now, here's my big questions. Speaking of series, I'm going to end with kind of the one I struggled with, and that was Throne of Glass. This is a young adult, I think, series by Sara Maas or Maas, and I think this is the first one. I think there's 10 of them, and I thought this was the first one. But I have to confess I kind of struggled with this, and I think this is a popular book, so I'm not trying to be snarky. I really want to know. The premise of this is really good, okay? It kind of bills it as a Game of Thrones meets Hunger Games, because our assassin is caught. She is in a mine camp, like a prison camp, and she has a chance to win her freedom by going up against other skilled people. Not all of them are criminals, but other people who want to be like the lead king's assassin position to earn her freedom. Okay, so that's kind of creative. I like that. And there's this really cool kind of magic element. So there's this other realm where you can summon magical spirits back and forth. So I like that. That's good. I wish that part of the story was a little more developed, and maybe it's developed somewhere else. So that's one of my questions. Is the magical kingdom further developed in a really positive way? Because that may be a reason to read it. And then the other thing is, this is not the first book, because she's 18 and she's an accomplished assassin. But when she gets out and she's trying to earn her right, she's just so arrogant and just demanding to everybody she encounters, to even the prince and the guards who are working with her. And I just don't understand where that comes from. I'm like, I think I missed something, because that just didn't resonate with me or make me root for her. I was just like, why is she just trying to be confident or act confident because she's not confident? I don't understand this character. So let me know if you love these stories. Did I read the wrong one for the first one, or can you help me understand? What's her name? I've even blanked out on what her name is now. Selena. Help me. I want to like this, but right now I don't think I'm going to read anymore. So I had an awesome reading month though, y'all, and I totally would love to hear what you're reading. What's your favorite classic? Have you read any of these books, and what do you recommend is out there to read next? I'm looking forward to the month of May and doing some more reading, but I'm not really sure which ones I'm going to pick up. Although I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to read Beartown, because I'm behind on that game and I want to jump into that. So otherwise, let me know. Thanks. Y'all have a super blessed day.